What's going on, everybody? Boogers Yuichi here. Back at it again with the playthrough of some Lost Odyssey. This time I'm hoping to make some really good playthrough source. Hopefully to get far. Definitely to at least get to one dream, maybe two, because they are consecutive. Alright. So we're heading to the Crimson Forest so that we can rescue Mac. Every time I hear that name, I just always think of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love that show. It's a good show. Yep. Go this way. Hope you guys are enjoying the playthrough. Time to dream. Evening bell. Rolling farmland spreads out before him. Kime harvests vegetables, wielding his hoe with deep concentration. The sky on this autumn evening is a deep crimson. Maybe we should call it a day, says the heaviest woman who owns the farm. She drops an armload of vegetables into the basket. Kime nods and wipes the sweat from his brow. You're a tremendous help, says the woman. Look how much we've done. Kime responds to her praise with a slight nod. You still can't remember where you came from, she asks. Afraid not. Well, the way you work, she says with an easy laugh. I don't care if you're from the moon. Seriously, Kime, what will you do when the harvest ends? I don't know yet. I haven't made my mind up. There's plenty of work to do here, even in winter, she says. It'd be fine with me if you wanted to stay on a while longer. Thank you, says Kime. She herself is a hard worker and a warm human being. This is not a life that allows for luxuries, but going out to the fields at dawn every day and ending work as the sun goes down softens his heart even as it toughens his body. As they prepare to leave the field, a small bell begins to ring. The hour is still somewhat early for the church's evening bell. Kime glances down on the road at the base of the hill. A funeral procession advances slowly along the road, the mourners surrounding a horse cart bearing a coffin. The woman sets her hoe on the ground, moves her handkerchief, and claps her hands together. Kime scans the hills to find that all the other workers on the surrounding farms are doing the same thing, clasping their hands, bowing their heads, and closing their eyes in the direction of the passing funeral. Kime follows their example. The old man leading the funeral procession swings the little bell. It ringing echoes among the hills. The mourners pass in silence. The women in black veils, the men in black coats, heads bowed. The children in the rear elbow each other playful, unaware of the meaning of death. When the funeral has passed, the woman raises her head and blinks her moistened eyes. The one who passed away is going home, she says. Home? Kime asks, somewhat startled. Home. To the soil. To the sky. To the sea. Like all living things. Kime nods in silent recognition. How many deaths has he seen in this endless, long life of his? All these people leave this world of ours, and we never see them again. In that sense, death is an infinitely sad event. If, However, we think that in dying, they go back to their home somewhere. A certain comfort and even joy comes to mingle with the sadness. But Kime, who can never grow old or die, can never go home. The woman scoops up a handful of earth and says with deep feeling, "Many lives have become a part of this soil. The lives of tiny living things we cannot see. The lives of withered grass. If you think about it that way, our vegetables are made for us by the lives of many others." I see. Can I ask you a favor, Kime? Of course. If I should die while you're working here, would you scatter some of my ashes on this field for me? A handful will do. Kime is at a loss for words. He forces a smile. Husband dead, children of their own, the woman lives by herself on the farm. Kime knows that if he goes on working here, like it or not, he will eventually have to watch over the woman's deathbed, even if she were to die 100, 200 years from now. The church bell rings, signaling the end of the workday. The woman claps her hands before her as she did with the funeral, as she did when the funeral passed. I have been allowed to come safely through one more day. For this, I give my heartfelt thanks. May tomorrow be another healthy day for me. Her voice in prayer resounds forcefully in Kime's breast. This happens every time he hears the church evening bell. The conviction overtakes him that he does not belong here. "Ma'am," he says to the woman after the last chime resounds. "Yes?" "Wouldn't you say that the people give thanks for each safe day and pray for good fortune in the day to come, because they know their lives will end?" "Well, what's wrong, Kime?" "I'll be leaving the village when the harvest is over." "Why all of a sudden? What happened?" "I have no right to live here," he says. Ignoring the suffocation, Kime lifts the vegetable basket in both arms. He takes another good, long look at the setting sun. "Where will you go, Kime, if you leave here?" "I don't know. Somewhere." "Are you just going to keep wandering like this?" "I don't have any place to go home to," says Kime. Hoisting the basket onto his shoulder, he starts down the hill. His back glows red with the setting sun. Nice little short one. We do have one more that we'll be doing until we go to the Crimson Forest.
War's a thankless job. Apparently not. Damn, they must be planning to invade Ura.
I wonder what that flash in his eye was. Perhaps we will learn about that later. It's definitely something to keep in mind. So we're gonna go down this way. There we go. Let's do a little faster. Dang, he can run. Portraits of the Dead. She always has mourning clothes with her. That way, she can begin a portrait as soon as a request comes in. And so it is today. Having slipped into her mourning dress in the shed of the pier, she boards the downstream ferry. Her hands are full. One holds the case with her painting tools, and the other the garment bag for her mourning dress. She has heard that a rich man lies dying in a town 20 kilometers downstream. Her name is Rosa. It's a race against time, she says with a grim smile. I have to start as soon as possible before the face change. Changes how? Kine asks. It's hard to say. There is a deepening strain to Rose's smile. But I know it when I see it. When the person has gone from this side to the other side. Once they've gone over, I can't paint them. At least, not in a way that will please the family. It just cannot be done. Rosa is a professional portraits of the dead, or portraitist of the dead. The custom of preserving death masks is now widely practiced in this area. Families too poor to hire an artist daub the face of the newly deceased with dye and preserve the loved one's deathbed expression on a cloth pressed against the dyed face. Some families make a death mask with the plaster. Only the wealthiest families can afford to hire a professional like Rosa, so that, lurking in the background of an individual's death, there can be a variety of disputes. I've heard families quarreling over the inheritance behind my back, even as I sit there sketching the dead person. One widow presented my portrait of her husband to the court to prove that he had been poisoned. Another time, some loan sharks waited until the moment the man died and charged right into the house. One husband tried to spit in his wife's face as soon as she gave up the ghost. Apparently, she had been unfaithful to him for years. Rosa tells her stories with utter detachment. She reveals no emotion at all. This, she says, is indispensable to becoming an outstanding portraitist of the dead. You have to open your sketchbook and get your brushes going with the bereaved family members right there, overcome with grief. There's no way you can produce a good portrait if you become emotional, or allow yourself to be swept up in the emotions of the other people in the house. Guy responds with a silent nod. His only connection with the woman is to have boarded the same boat and sat at the same table in the cafe on the deck. Only a few minutes have passed since she started volunteering her stories, but that is all it takes for Kime to perceive the hints of nihilism lurking in her beautiful features. The more respectable artists despise painters like me. Why is that? Well, half of them accuse us of making our living from people's deaths. The other half look down on us for not being moved by what we do. I see their point. I mean, the emotions are what give rise to all the arts, whether it's painting, sculpture, music, or literature. We don't have emotions like that. We're nothing but craftsmen. Rosa speaks without a hint of either self-mockery or pride. Her tone suggests that she is merely stating the obvious in an obvious way. Kime takes a sip of his rye whiskey, and Rosa drinks from a rose-petal tea. The boat makes its leisure way downstream. The season is spring. The river is high with snowmelts, and white water birds have settled on its surface. Strange, Rosa says with a giggle. When I first saw you, I thought that you and I must be members of the same profession, which is why I took the initiative to speak to you. Kime gives her a strained smile. He knows nothing about painting, and he is fairly certain there is nothing about his appearance that would cause him to be mistaken for an artist. It well could be, however, that in the profile of this man drinking whiskey alone in the afternoon, Rosa has recognized the hue of a nihilist like her own. Or then again, she might have perceived the shadow of the other side, clinging fast to Kime's back. Until a few days ago, Kime was on a battlefield. There, he witnessed the killing of many enemies and many allies, but he was unmoved by any of it. Such youthfulness had long since vanished from him. Though outwardly unchanged, Kime has lived through several centuries. Rosa says that she is in her mid-30s and in her 10th year since becoming a portraitist of the dead, which apparently puts her near the beginning of her career. If you wouldn't mind, she adds, I have a few more things I'd like to discuss with you. When Kime nods silently in compliance, Rosa thanks him and gives him the first heartful smile of the day. Portrayals of the dead are never present while the subject is dying. The very fact that such a professional has been called means that the person's death is imminent, and so there is seen a presence of ill omen and even defilement. A family member or friend who has been in the bedside dares to broach the subject quietly in another room. Don't you think it may be time to call a painter? The answer, whether too soon for that or I think you may be right, is delivered in guarded tones. Introduced to the family by the church, the portrayalist never enters the house by the front door. Rather, he or she goes around the back and is shown to a room where the sun cannot penetrate. There, the painter changes into mourning clothes and waits for the announcement of the death. Eventually, a quiet knock on the door is followed by a summons to appear, and the painter, dressed in mourning, sets to work. Not all deaths occur at the end of long lifetimes, of course. All too often, the painter must depict the face of one who has died young of illness or accident. The face that emerges in the artist's sketchbook radiates the delicate vivacity of one who has just crossed the border, dividing life from death, one who has only moments before transition from this world to the other. The work presented to the family is an oil painting done from the sketch. Rosa believes the sketch itself is a far more authentic portrait of the dead. There is nothing quite like the atmosphere in a room where someone has just died. How to put it? It's as though the flow of time has stopped, or time itself has melted into the very air. The sobbing and the wailing sound, as if they might last forever, the only movement of time, and all this being the way the face of the dead person emerges little by little onto the blank white page of the sketchbook. She hands him her thick sketchbook. See, she says, showing him countless faces of dead. This is 2 years' worth. Many of the faces are peaceful, but others are full of agony, and all without expression possesses a mysterious presence. They differ unmistakably from faces in sleep. Neither, however, do they look dead. They seem as if they might open their eyes at any moment, or just as easy, crumble to ash. They hover, men and women alike, on the very brink of death. After the body is cooled, it's too late. It's also too late if the family has begun making its preparations for the funeral. The game is won or lost in those very few minutes following the death itself. All we can do is start sketching as efficiently and expeditially as possible. With a painful smile, Rosa adds, in the eyes of the family, though, that makes me a cold-hearted woman. Kime turned to the pages of her sketchbook, saying nothing. He would like to tell her that it is in the same on the battlefield. There, no one has time to mourn the death of a soldier. If you're too busy shedding tears instead of doing the next thing you have to do, you end up being one of those forced to travel to the other world. The final sketch in the book is unfinished, the face of a young girl. The general outlines of her hair and face are sketched in, nothing more. Kime looks questionably at Rosa. My daughter, she says softly. But why? A portrait painter of the dead reaches full maturity in the profession when she is able to paint a member of her own family, which only makes sense. I mean, how self-serving is it if you can be coldly objected towards the death of a stranger, but not towards a member of your own family? Her daughter died 2 years ago. The girl's 3 short years of life brought to a sudden end by a bad flu that was making the rounds. I was holding her hands almost until the moment she died, Rosa said. I was in tears, calling her name and pleading with her to come back to me, not to die. After the doctor looked at her with a shake of his drooping head, though, Rosa realized her daughter's hands and opened her sketchbook. Wiping her tears, she picked up her pencil and tried to sketch her daughter's face. But I couldn't do it. The tears came pouring out of me, no matter how much I wiped them. I simply couldn't work. Kime turns his gaze to the unfinished sketch again. Some areas of the white paper were wavy, perhaps where Rosa's tears had fallen. I guess I'm not qualified to be a portraitist of the dead, she says with a smile, glancing down the river. But still, if I had to choose one work for art to leave behind, that would be it. The boat gives a blast on its steam. Frightened, the birds on the river leap into the air in great mass. Kime closes the sketchbook and returns it to Rosa. He considers complimenting her on the excellence of the drawing, but chooses silence instead. Such praise, he feels, could be a sign of disrespect for her work, for Rosa herself, and for her dead daughter. I didn't mean to bend your ears like this, she said. I'm sorry. She stands and peers at Kime once again. Really, though, you look like a member of my profession. Kime gives her a strange smile and shakes her head. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that, she responds with a strange smile of her own. And you probably won't like me saying this either, but please, call me if you ever need a portraitist of the dead. I won't need one, Kime says. I have no family. No family? Well, then when your own time comes, with a little chuckle, Rosa leaves. Her right hand grabs the case with her painting supplies, her left the garment bag with morning clothes. Unfortunately, Kime will never need her services. He will not, cannot, go to the other world just yet. On the long, long road of his life, how many deaths has he encountered? Steam horn blast again. The boat gradually lowers its speeds and edges towards the river bank. The landing draws closer. When he leaves the boat, his journey will begin again. It will be a long journey. The next battlefield lies far beyond the mountains, that tower in the distance. So that's actually interesting because, at least over here in the Western world, when photography started to become popular, many people actually took photos of their recently passed away. Those believe that it kept the, preserved the spirit or made them happy. I don't know, something like that. But then I know that there was also those with like photography and stuff like that who thought it like captured their souls. So it's just interesting to know that that they brought that little story into in here. And who knows, that may have been a profession back in the day too as well. Alright. So now we're ready to go. Hopefully get into some combat. Because she has to get some levels. She is way too far behind. We're not going to grind though. We're just going to go we're going to go straight into the Crimson Forest, and we're going to get to a good point in there. Because there is a lot of loot here, and all the loot here is loot we want to get.
Wow, overheard in town that there's a reason this forest has been crimson for years.
Isn't it just the color of autumn leaves? Although, it is incredibly intense.
The reason the Queen forbade entry was because the Crimson Forest is cursed, stained with blood. It's also called the Forest of Sorrow.
What? Blood?
Oh, don't be a wimp.
It was 500 years ago, wasn't it?
Huh?
Oh, that.
Well, what? Tell me.
500 years ago, a country to the east invaded Numara. This forest is now crimson, the color of the blood from those who fell in that battle. Who knows how many thousands of forgotten soldiers lie beneath the soil, staining this forest red for eternity.
Alright, if you remember the artist from earlier too, this is also the place where we're going to be getting the crystal fragments that we want to have to make sure that we complete the quest. Since I did come here and farm a little bit, there will be some items that are missing. But most of the stuff here is actually pretty linear. It's some of the extra bonus stuff that's a little bit confusing to get into. Like you've got this right here. And we can't do anything with it. But we will be able to do something with it later. Just not right now.
Say your prayers!
Alright, got wind element. And they a fire. Even if you go in here around quick level 15, you're still good to go in this place. Really? Alright, let's see. What are they? They're water. Nice and easy.
That was close.
Yeah, look at that. One whole level. Nice. Always make sure you're checking your equipment. When you learn something, you always want to switch it. Even if it's something you learned before or something you're probably like, oh, I don't know if I'll use that. Yeah. I think there's an achievement that's connected to it. Yeah. So we'll eventually go up. Let's see. Oh, nope. We go back to that later on in the game. You can take a mental note of those, or you can find the guide online. Yeah, so we have connected. There's an item over there. And of course, now that I
Guess
really
we have no choice.
don't need grind, it's gonna give me a bunch of them. But that's okay. So these frog type enemies are actually very interesting. These guys will actually cast poison on everybody. So that's why it's very important to have an anti-poison. just have them take them out. Both of these should be able to easily take it off. Yeah, here it comes. You see my immortals have a anti-poison. Feel free to switch your rings out during battle too, to get the elemental that they're weak to. Usually for trash homes like this, I really just equip the rings, and that's pretty sufficient. Both of them should be able to take them out easily.
Only the strong survive.
XP around here usually really starts to slow down around like, I want to say level 17, 18.
Don't let him get away!
As long as your immortals are like good to go for the level of the boss, most of your other guys can pretty much fall in line, but you'll want to keep them at least the other guys 1 or 2 levels behind, no more. But most of the time, I always recommend making sure that they are the same level. That's just what I do. Defend everybody, and you go call reinforcements, and that will get you more XP.
That was close.
So that's an option. And this just loops around back to the beginning. So there's another teleport thing here. There's some more items here. So we're actually going to continue to go north now.
It's Max! I wonder if he slipped. You know that kid's not too bright after all.
Mac must be ahead of us. Let's go.
Double back here. I think there was 1 or 2 items that I missed. Nope. I got everything here. Alright, so we're gonna go to near swamp. Always go to the side first.
Let's take him down.
This place is kind of weird because you'll be getting on top and then going over to places, so... Oh, yes! You see, this was I was talking about earlier with the director from Dragon Quest that's doing this, because you guys know the slimes from Dragon Quest, they come in the different ones. And of course, you know, silver, gold, they give you the better XP. This is the exact same thing here. So, Kellens are this version slime. And when we play Blue Dragon, we'll see their versions as well. So, alrighty. That's gonna give us some good XP.
That wasn't very fun.
And she learned Turntail. Very nice. What's he learn? Oh, he's already learned something, so we need to make sure that he learns other stuff. Like I said, even if you're like, hey, I'm probably never going to quit it, it's good to have him learn it. Alright, here's another item up here. Another crystal fragment for our artist. We'll kick this. Sometimes these can be items, and sometimes they can be encounters. We'll learn about this later. Pretty soon, as a matter of fact. So that's everything down on this side. I do think I missed one or two items, though. This, I believe, is an encounter, if I can remember correctly. Yep. And that's perfectly fine. This is nice. Okay. Still not able to one-shot him, huh? Disappointing. Alright. So now we know from the flare mine that our melee people, when they go to attack, they will take some damage. Okay. Sure she has the nice, she's 18. That's why we make sure that we have her equipped with the rings. Alright, so let's go down this way here. Let's actually heal up a little bit first, though. And one more. There we go. Okay. That's actually pretty good. Yeah, I was hoping that maybe that would like reset the GC or something. I think later on you do get abilities that do it outside of combat. No, I want to go back this way. These are items I missed because I couldn't get to them, or whether they're... whether I can go a different way. Yeah, see, I can go a different way. There we go. Okay. Hopefully I can get a couple of physical attacks while landing on them. Nope. Nope. Range was not with me. Come in, go ahead and defend yourself. Hopefully he does not run away. Get him. Oh. Yeah, he plays now well.
Phew. That was a close one.
Well, that sucked. I would have loved that XP. Watch the speed encounter. Nope, it's an actual item. Yay! Alright, we have got to heal. This guy's really low. Very nice. Alright. Don't necessarily need to top ourselves off, but it definitely needs to be better. Alright, so that's all the items on this side here. We got that one already, so we are going to go this way and get this item. I've actually never seen these guys show up so much. I'm shocked. Nice. Oh,
That was close.
why do you want to stay and hang out with us? Alright, that's another one we'll come back to later. Alright. I would like to save. And then on our next video, we will tackle the Sorcerer's Shrine.